Good evening and welcome to the February 5th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. Although it may appear that there are only two council members here and you're saying, well, where's the quorum? We actually have one council member who is participating via Zoom. That's Jamil. So tech team, if you can just bring Jamil up so he's able to participate in the minutes right up front. And then Neil Harris called and he's running a little bit late, so he'll be walking in any minute now. Where is my agenda here? First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite Lieutenant Chris Vance to lead us in the pledge. If everyone can please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Chris. Next item on our agenda is reflection, and I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Tonight we have 3 sets of minutes before us. And Jamil, I just want you to stay alert. It is the middle of the night where he is. So the first set of minutes is from the regular session on January 16, 2024. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes from the regular session dated January 16, 2024.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed, say nay. That carries 3-0. Next set of minutes is from the joint work session held on January 22nd. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes of January 22nd, 2024.
Jamil, I'm going to need you to second that.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
And I abstain.
And one abstention. So that carries 2-0 with one abstention by Council Vice President McNulty. And last set of minutes is the work session held on January 29th. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I will move approval of the work session minutes from January 29th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, that carries 3-0. Thank you all very much. Next item on our agenda is presentations, and let me just pull up. First one is our Black History Month proclamation, and Lisa Henderson and I are going to go down to the podium, and we're inviting Dorothy Winder from our Parks and Rec department and Arnetta Quarles, who will be receiving the proclamation this evening. Join us at the podium, please. Sorry, I thought you were coming the other way. Yeah. Welcome. Lisa, you come over here. I'm going to have you go ahead and read that background material. And then I'll do the proclamation.
Celebrated annually in the United States during the month of February, Black History Month was started in 1926 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He sought to bring national attention to the important contribution African Americans made to the history of the United States. Woodson chose February because it includes the birthdays of Frederick Douglass, Langston Hughes, and Abraham Lincoln. The city will be commemorating Black History Month by hosting a thought-provoking educational display at the Activity Center, along with various stimulating activities at the different facilities. Please visit the city's website for more information. Accepting this year's proclamation is Arnetta Quarles. Arnetta is an author, poet, lyricist, local historian, and veteran. She grew up and attended schools in rural Gaithersburg in a time when farmland stretched for miles and fruit trees were plentiful. She is a member of Emery Grove United Methodist Church, where her family is in its 6th generation of attendance. One of her fondest memories as a child was sitting with her elders and listening as they recalled the days of their youth. This interest led her on a quest to help preserve the history of Emery Grove with Montgomery County Cable Television. Recently, she presented the history of Metropolitan Grove, a once vibrant African American community lost during urban renewal in the 1970s. Arnetta is the direct descendant of one of the most prominent citizens of Metropolitan Grove, Dora Payne Dorsey. In 1906, Arnetta's great-grandmother was the principal of the colored school for Metropolitan Grove. She also taught at various colored schools, including Stewarttown, Clarksburg, and Boyd's, in the early part of the last century. Arnetta's goal is to have her great-grandmother's contributions to the early education system of Montgomery County and her home in Metropolitan Grove recognized and commemorated, so that Dora Payne Dorsey in Metropolitan Grove will not be forgotten.
Excellent. Proclamation of the Mayor and City Council of Gaithersburg. Whereas the history of Black Americans is unique and rich and has helped define what it means to be American. And whereas Black Americans have come to know the freedoms our forefathers fought for when establishing these United States, gained through the application of our founding principles of freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to assembly, and due process of law. And whereas Black Americans have worked to remove systemic racism and discrimination that pervaded our laws and our public consciousness for decades, steadily making progress through the work of Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, Marion Wright Edelman, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall, Colin Powell, John Lewis, and many others. And whereas Black Americans have contributed greatly to the success of our nation in the areas of commerce, business, politics, education, medicine, arts, entertainment, and inventions that changed the nation, now therefore I, Judd Ashman, by the power vested in me as Mayor of Gaithersburg, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Black History Month in the city of Gaithersburg, and encourage all government officials, educators, businesses, and residents of the city to honor, recognize, and celebrate the contributions of Black Americans. Proclaim this 5th day of February 2024, and signed by me, and let's give Arnetta Quarles a great round of applause. Did you want to? You're welcome to say a few words. You don't have to, but you're welcome to. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank Mayor Ashman and also the council members for recognizing Black history in Gaithersburg, Maryland. African American history, as you know, is also Gaithersburg history. And I'd like to also thank the Multicultural Affairs Committee for selecting me to accept this proclamation. It's an honor. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, in a separate but related category, I'd like to invite Hazel Monet, our Racial Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Program Manager, to present on behalf of the Gaithersburg Racial Equity Cohort an update on all the work they're doing. There are slides.
You have to bring them up. Yes.
It's my first go. This is the one that is adjusted, but I don't see that one.
Their instructions on them. Following directions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hazel Monet, and I'm honored to serve as the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Program Manager in the City of Gaithersburg. I'm joined here by my colleagues Jan Kim and John Schlichting. We'll say a little bit more after I share some updates. I also want to share that I was recently voted to co-chair the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Racial Equity or Chief Equity Officers Committee. I will serve a one-year term for the year of 2024. And I commit to showcasing the great work of Gaithersburg and also sharing resources from other jurisdictions in this area.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It really makes us proud.
Thank you so
actually,
much. I am truly honored. So as I am 1 month and 1 day shy of being here for 1 year,
Wow.
this presentation is titled A Near Year in Review. We had put slides, their slides are available for others to see. I'm not sure. They'll be
Same
available.
slides.
Huh?
Same slides, they're available on the website.
Okay, I just can't, I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing, so I don't know what others are seeing. My
They will
apologies.
display them as soon as you start your presentation.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It is started here.
No, just keep talking. It's
Okay.
okay.
Thank you. Tanisha often squashes my my worries. I appreciate that. So I just want to share a word that you'll see our presentation is in both English and Spanish tonight. Part of that is to move us towards our goal that we'll talk about in a bit through our GEAR project to create more language access. This is a step. There are many avenues. There's many languages that aren't included tonight. This is an opportunity for us to start to practice, and we'll highlight again more in depth. So I want to start by sharing that I know that our work in the city for racial equity, diversity, inclusion began prior to my hire. Specifically want to highlight the passing of the Racial Equity Awareness and Action Plan, which I will use to highlight a few things from this year. So our first strategy in this plan is to build awareness and capacity. One highlight there is during the summer, we administered a readiness survey, readiness being racial equity, diversity, inclusion. So you'll hear that word a lot, ready. Administered a survey just to assess where folks were at in our city and and what we were up to. And so I want to share that 87.2 respondents would describe the city of Gaithersburg as a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workspace. 90% of those respondents think it is valuable to examine and discuss racial equity, diversity, and inclusion concepts at work. Really great for me. So one, I'm not talking in a vacuum, but also getting a lot of pushback. And as you hear in this presentation, you'll get to see that there's a lot of folks that make that 90% come to life. Of those surveyed, 65% are already actively involved, and we continue to see that through some of our efforts in the city. The next highlight continues to be in our build awareness and capacity, being this being our first year really living out this racial equity awareness and action plan. We've spent a lot of energy in our build awareness and capacity stage of this plan. So the second thing I want to highlight is that we hosted a 4-part dialogue, learning, and implementation series, our Lunch and Learn series. We covered a variety of topics, one being around setting the context and defining terms, helping folks share and be clear about where they stand in this work through their Ready stories, and then practicing building relationships and building out our action plans using SMARTY goals. And maybe folks are familiar with that or maybe they're not, but I heard of SMARTY goals, which we have here: strategic, measurable, ambitious, realistic, and time-bound. There's been a move in this work to include inclusive and equitable. So now we have SMARTY, just another acronym for us all to work with, not that we don't have enough. And I just want to highlight, too, that at least one representative from every city department was a part of this Lunch and Learn series. So again, just a commitment that's present here in the city. After tonight, or even now if you're up to it, I would love for you to take a look at our new webpage. It's been updated to include an interactive Ready story map. Thank you to Jan, an area with our GIS division, who helped to make that happen. It includes resources for continued Ready work. A large part of our action plan is internal facing. This also provides some resources for our residents to take a look at things like why this work, how are we defining terms, and much more. And then you'll also be able to see some updates on our strategic plan and our racial equity and awareness plan. The second and third strategies within this plan really are connected. They are to align and enhance existing efforts and identify equity opportunities within city departments. On Friday, this past Friday, February 2nd, we officially launched the city's racial equity core team. It has 12 core members that represent quite a few departments. Almost all of the departments actually are represented through this core team, and actually all of our city departments are represented largely through all of our equity work, which we'll hear a little bit more about in just a moment. And so want to just thank everyone for showing up and continuing to do this work. A huge part of this cohort's job this year is to support departments and divisions to build out specific equity action plans within their areas of focus. Lots to cover, so I'll keep going. The fourth strategy within this action plan is to explore and build community partnerships and alliances in the city. And one of them that I want to highlight, we'll talk about here, is through our GARE, which is the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, our racial equity cohort. This is the second cohort to participate from the city of Gaithersburg. And I just want to share a little bit here. So through our participation in the Racial Equity Learning Cohort, we have continued our efforts to create equitable outcomes for all people in the city of Gaithersburg. Beginning in 2023, the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, that is GARE, in partnership with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, COG, all these acronyms, hosted its third introductory learning cohort of 6 metro region governmental jurisdictions. We were joined by Alexandria, Hyattsville, Rockville, Fairfax County, and Frederick County. We're all working to systematically advance racial equity in our respective contexts. It's important to note again that this is Gaithersburg's second set of staff to participate in the GARE cohort, and I'd be remiss if I didn't share my gratitude to the previous Gaithersburg cohort, Patrice Payne, Lieutenant Chris Vance, Kevin Edders, and former Gaithersburg team members Tammy Castillo and Nathan Bassett. Their work laid the crucial foundation for the Racial Equity Awareness and Action Plan, and also my hire, so I'm deeply grateful. The city of Gaithersburg sent 5 employees from various departments to participate in this learning cohort. You'll see these beautiful people. And so we have Maura Dinwiddie from our Sports and Youth Services Division Chief, Jan Kim, our GIS Division Manager, Tom Lonergan Seeger, our Assistant City Manager, myself, our Ready Program Manager, and John Schlichting, our Planning and Code Administration Director. And I just want to say that though you'll be hearing from John and Jan in this presentation, the entire team that you see on the screen has demonstrated a deep commitment not to just the 11-month cohort, but the continuation of our language access efforts and all our equity efforts in our city beyond the scope of the program. So I will turn it over to John to share a little bit more about our GARE work.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So over the course of our 11-month program, our team was asked to think of challenges in our jurisdiction that we might be able to address using the GARE Racial Equity Toolkit. As we headed into 2023, there were various efforts arising in the city focused on providing language access, so it felt right for us to build a project supporting this work throughout the city. Consequently, our project focus became creating a comprehensive program to provide equitable and engaging language access for our non-English speaking residents. We want to note that our project is a step towards our transformative goal to ensure our public processes and decisions are more reflective of the breadth of the diverse communities and experiences in our city. Next slide. So our ultimate vision is that Gaithersburg is a city free of racial and ethnic disparities. Our intention is to use whatever power and influence we have to advance equity, starting with our own institutions and systems and expanding to support our entire community. So using the 6-step GARE racial equity tool process, we were able to clarify key components to ensure our city's efforts are data informed and values aligned. And the 6 steps are: identify our desired results, gather and analyze data, community engagement, cultivate strategies for racial equity, create an implementation plan, and communicate and be held accountable. Next slide.
So Gaithersburg is the most diverse city in the nation where there's no major race that makes up more than 50% of the city population. Here we have a set of maps showing race and ethnicity of the city. This is based on 2021 American Census Survey data from Census Bureau. And we see the patterns that we have where white non-Hispanic populations are more major, and we contrast with the Hispanic, Black non-Hispanic, Asian non-Hispanic, and multiple race maps. These are all shown at Black groups level. And when we look at these race ethnicity maps with other social demographic data, such as median household income, we see a pattern emerging. We see that there's a higher median household income where we have a white non-Hispanic population, and vice versa, higher concentration of those population. And also when we look at the English proficiency map, where we map population who speak English not very well, not well, or not at all, we see that all this trend carry over. The project goal of us is to help those population with language barrier to get informed of city services, and also help them utilize city services and participate in city meetings and events. Here's another table. This one is from 2022 census data, ACS data again. This shows language spoken at the city, specifically spoken at home. And we can see that after English, there's a big population, 22.7% speaking Spanish, followed by speaking Chinese and also French at home. And also there's also the less lighter count number shows those people who do not speak English less than very well. So these informations help us kind of inform this project approaches.
So as we went through our GEAR process using that toolkit, we were asked to really think about continuing, in our case, to build out the infrastructure. So as you know, we had quite a bit of infrastructure with our city manager, our former GEAR team, you all. We had quite a lot built in place. And so we were really sort of standing on a great foundation. So as we look to build this into our work a little deeper, we've been able to build it into our strategic plan. Part of that is to ensure that there's a cross-department effort to create more engaging and accessible language access for our residents. One important highlight is that the project and our overall equity work isn't just a part of our strategic outcome to create equitable outcomes, but it's explicitly linked to our goals for cultivating a vibrant culture and being a safe and welcoming community. Through this process, we also realized that many hands make light work, as they say. And so we've sort of built out our racial equity, I always forget the word. Thank you, org chart. Thanks, Jan, always by my side. And so in our case, for our equity practices and work in the city, we want to highlight, of course, our Ready Program Office, our City Manager's Office, our new Racial Equity Core team. And through this project, understanding, again, that we need a cross-department effort. We've gained support from our human resources and finance departments to really implement some of the strategies that we'll name in just a few. And the question marks there are intentional. Part of our work and continuing to build our capacity is to share that spot with someone or a department that takes on this slice of the pie in the future.
So as Hazel mentioned, we are incorporating our GEAR core project into a strategic plan. We have 4 action items. First one is to evaluate the current language stipend program. For this effort, we conducted a survey with the language stipend program recipients. One of the major findings is that we found that 20% of respondents noted that they provide language translation services 1 to 5 times a month, while there were other staff members who were engaged in translation services for hours on a daily basis. So we are exploring options to better distribute this workload and also run the program more efficiently. Second action item is to secure language translation service. If you recall that table we talked about, there are populations who speak Spanish and also followed by Chinese and French, who speaks those languages at home. When we look at our language stipend program recipients, 90% of the staff members speak Spanish. There's no one who provides translation service for Chinese, and there's only one person who provides French translation service. So by engaging this third-party translation service, we hope to address that gap.
So our third new key action item is to build the capacity for language access of our staff, which will include facilitating cultural competency trainings and providing more language learning opportunities. And finally, our fourth key action item is to create the program itself and establish metrics for its success. And measures we are considering are percent of language translation service rendered for citizens by staff in individual service request settings, percent of public meetings that language translation services are provided, percent of translated web pages on the city's webpage, and percent of translated forms for city service requests. So these are all quantitative measures, but we will also explore qualitative measures that can speak for the overall outcome. And that concludes our presentation, and we are happy to answer questions.
Thank you all very much. This is exciting, and I think a healthy exercise for us to evaluate our operations, our communications, the way we interact with the people that we serve. And I look forward to you guys help the recommendations that come out of this exercise for us to do even better. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and congratulations on this work. This is excellent, including having these slides in both English and Spanish. Way to go. A question I have, and I see the numbers where the majority of non-English speakers speak Spanish, and then followed by Chinese, followed by French. When we translate the website, are we translating to all three languages? Are we given the option for all three, or four if we include English, or Spanish?
Part of the securing the translation service will be to learn best practices, but one of the things that we have seen is having an option when someone enters the page and having a variety of places for them to select, and that everything that is on that page then gets translated. And so wherever they land on the homepage, they can say, I need it in French. And that, right now our webpage is available to folks using Google Translate. And again, that's one of the ways that we're working to create the access. And we know that there are ways that we can go a little deeper. And so that'll be some of our effort as the team and others who are not visible here to sort of ensure that we're creating a comprehensive program that's responsive to the need.
Thank you. And one other question, what version of Spanish are you using?
This is a great question. So we understand in this particular region, all places, that you can be speaking Spanish, Spanish from Mexico, El Salvador. We're trying to hit a sweet spot middle ground that represents the folks of this community for the most part. And so Salvadoran, Spanish for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Hazel and Jan and John, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing on this. I loved the phrase, John, that you used, data-informed and values-aligned. I think that's a really great way to quantify and to look at how we're going about doing this. I think it came up in the housing master plan when we were talking about providing Spanish translation, but it was only one way. There weren't ways for people to participate in Spanish, no more than if they were to come here tonight. And I think that's a really important opportunity for us to get more engagement with our, particularly our Spanish-speaking population, considering the quantity of people that speak Spanish in our community. I was shocked by that chart that said that fewer than 50% of our people speak English only. That was eye-opening to me. So I kudos to all the work that went in before I got on the council to lay the groundwork for this, and thank you for doing the great work. I look forward to seeing how we can use these services for all of our public meetings, for the websites, for documents, and really get that engagement from communities that have really been left out of the process. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to lift up something important, Janine, that, we're providing a small bit of access tonight, right? So folks are listening in English. And so we'll be thinking about what our recommendations might be as we move forward with this program and what that means for our city in terms of providing live translation or captions or whatever that looks like. We're not making recommendations tonight. Part of our work is to present our ongoing work, upcoming work to you, and we look forward to returning with some recommendations and more people for that slice of the pie. So thank you all so much for this opportunity to share what we're up to.
Before you go, I think that Jamil Hernandez on Zoom has a comment that's related to what you're talking about. So Jamil, go ahead.
Hey, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Hazel, pleasure to meet you virtually. And thank you for putting this together as, somebody whose English is our second language, started as a native Spanish speaker, appreciative of the efforts that have gone to make Gaithersburg a more inclusive place and more accessible for folks to speak different languages. Probably it's early days and the recommendations are starting, or the investigations are starting. Have you had any feedback or thoughts on how the AI translation services are in terms of increased accuracy? We started to use them in my private sector life, versus manually translated web page or other items on demand. What are your thoughts in terms of its accuracy and its potential utility for the future?
Yes, we are aware that the translation services is advancing leaps and bounds thanks to AI. So we are aware of the solution. So we'll be looking into more in depth when we are ready to tackle implementations.
Yeah, and I think our overall goal too is to utilize best practices. So there will be times where, leveraging an AI-generated translation could serve us. And through our process of securing a translation service provider in particular, we're hoping to be able to have like a people-centered approach as much and as often as possible. That's a great question. We'll continue to consider that in our research.
All right. Jamil, did you have a follow-up?
No, I just had to say thank you.
Okay. Neil doesn't look like he's jumping around to speak here.
No, I was just looking at the presentation, and what you're outlining is a process, and I'm looking forward to hearing what your recommendations and goals are as we go forward. I think that's the part that I'm really excited about. So you still got work to do.
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much. Next item on our agenda is public comments. This is the time the mayor and council would like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing, because we have our public hearing next. So if you're here to speak about the Animal Control Board, then hold on to that. But if you'd like to speak on anything else, we ask that you come up to the podium, state your name and address or neighborhood for the record, and keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. The timer will beep when you have 30 seconds left, and it will beep a bunch of times when your time is up. Come on up, Ken.
Yeah, I'm Ken Weiss. I live in Durwood, and I'm a second late. I just want to congratulate whoever did the translation for that presentation. It's really good. And I'm wondering if the presentation is available to the public.
The one that we just hit? Yeah, it's on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other testimonies here in the room tonight? Now I'm going to check our Zoom room. If anybody on Zoom wants to speak, just use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. Going once, going twice. Okay, not seeing any. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That concludes our public comments. Now we will move on to our public hearing, and I'm going to invite Lieutenant Vance to lead the public hearing on the Animal Control Board.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
We are here tonight to conduct a public hearing to the proposed amendment for Section 4-36 of the City Code, establish members, officers, quorum, and voting members. The proposed amendment introduced at the council on January 2nd, 2024, would change the voter membership provisions on the Animal Control Board. The summary of the proposed amendments focuses on two main changes. The first one would propose changing board membership from the veterinary community from representatives from the Montgomery County Veterinary Medical Association to the Maryland State Veterinary Medical Association. It would also add wording that requires those members to practice and live in Montgomery County, or practice or live within Montgomery County. This affects the regular board membership and the alternate board membership. The second proposed change is how we use the alternate members of the Animal Control Board. It removes requirements that alternate members can only fill in for a specific absent member. For instance, if a member from the Medical Veterinary Association is absent, they can currently only be replaced by a member, a alternate member who is from the Veterinary Medical Association. This would remove that requirement, and so if needed, we could use any alternate to fill in for that position. The reasons for the proposed amendments is this is consistent with how other boards and committees are run with the city. It allows flexibility for the board to maintain quorum and vote on animal control matters in an efficient manner. And it changes the Veterinary Association because there's no longer a Montgomery County Veterinary Medical Association. So the desired outcome tonight is staff recommends that the mayor and council hold open the record until 5 p.m. on March 1st, 2024, to 25 days with an anticipated policy discussion on Monday, March 4th, 2024. And I can answer any questions if you have.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
I got my questions in last time, so.
Okay. Jamil, anything from you?
Nope, looking forward to hearing from the public.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing, and same rules apply for public comments. Is there anybody in the room who'd like to testify on this matter? Okay, not seeing anybody in the room. Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to testify on this matter? Use the raise hand function, and I'll call on you. All right, not seeing any hands go up. Then, as Chris mentioned, our recommendation is that we hold our record open until 5 p.m. on March 1st with anticipated policy discussion. Wait a second. Oh, yeah, on March 4th, 3 days later. Okay, got it. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that carries 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is from the mayor and city council. We're going to start off with Councilmember Neil Harris.
Oh, thank you. So the Transportation Committee and many other members of the council and staff and general public were treated to a tour of the 911 and traffic control facility here in Gaithersburg, which is at Quince Orchard and Quince Orchard, Quince Orchard Road and Quince Orchard Boulevard. It's a really interesting tour. We got to see we got to learn how groups are pulled together when there's an emergency, which happens very infrequently, but kind of mission control for dispatching needed resources. We didn't actually go into the 911 area because that's a little out of bounds, but we got to see how traffic is controlled. And we got to hear that one of the pieces of the system is running on Sun Solaris system, which horrified a couple of us. And hopefully they'll upgrade it to equipment by a company that hasn't been out of business for more than a decade.
You might as well just get all the details from that announcement. Just put them out. I was going to have Lisa read that announcement, but you said most of it already. But to give them the date and...
Okay, so I'll read the announcement. Notice to the general public is hereby given that members of the mayor and city council participated in a tour I just did all this. Hosted by the Transportation Committee on January 25th. The tour took place at the Montgomery County Public Safety Communications Center, 1300 Quince Orchard Boulevard, Gaithersburg, Maryland, at the corner of Quince Orchard Road and Quince Orchard Boulevard, and included the Transportation Management 911 and Emergency Operations Centers. I really did cover that whole thing, didn't I?
You did. All you really needed to say was the date, but we got it. We got it.
All right, and speaking of transportation, which you knew I would do more of, I've been working with former council member and current delegate Ryan Spiegel on some legislation to do what I've been trying to convince people around here to do for a long time, which is to take a best practice from Northern Virginia and create a way to fund transportation projects that are desperately needed here in Montgomery County and the Washington suburban region. So the Ryan's bill dropped on Friday. I haven't heard for sure, but it was scheduled to be dropped in the Senate by Senator Nancy King today. And I'm sure there will be much discussion and adjustment, but the idea is to build a mechanism to actually fund and implement transportation projects. And we've been joined by other parts of the state as well, so the idea is that the same sort of system can be set up for the Baltimore region and for the Southern Maryland region. So I'm excited. I think this is going to be something that will take several years to pass and then implement a program, but I think it's the right way to go, and I'm very hopeful that now is the time to actually get this going. So more news at 11. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. Lisa.
I practiced that announcement for hours. Hours. I will just say happy Black History Month to everyone. Please take the time to go learn something about a historical Black person. There are many out there. If you need any, let me know and I'll be happy to help you find some. Also, head over to the Activity Center. There is a beautiful display there celebrating Black History Month. So when you find time, please stroll through there and take a look. They've done a fantastic job. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll go to Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will echo Councilmember Henderson's entreaty to go check out the Activity Center. I actually posted pictures of that on my Twitter feed the other day when I was leaving the gym. So it really did do a wonderful job there. It's good to be back. I missed a work session because of vacation. Was actually in Mexico for my wife and my first trip without the kids since 2010. So that was long overdue, and it was a nice way to welcome in my 50th, I guess my 51st year on the planet. So we had a really nice time. It was my first time in Mexico, and it was nice to be away from the cold. But like I said, it is good to be back. I want to thank everybody for their prayers for my sister Michelle, who had cancer surgery last week. It went very, very well. She is home. She's recovering well. She's already eating and doing all the things that you need to do after having a cancer surgery in your intestine. So it's, again, I'm just going to say this was caught at age 47 because she got tested maybe a year or two after, but the new guidelines are starting at age 45. Get a colonoscopy so that you can catch things like this early. Both my brother and I ran out and got ours, and we both came back with a couple of polyps, but everything tested out clear. So I encourage you, please, for your family's sake, it is one of the most treatable forms of cancer if caught early. So please take care of yourselves. Friday night, my wife and I had the pleasure of attending the Arts Barn Legacy Campaign reception and concert with Gianpiero Bugliarello, who is a world-class pianist. He was incredible. Former Councilmember Mike Sesma and his wife was there as well. Just kudos to Linda Bloom and the entire Arts Barn staff putting that reception together. Amy said to me afterwards, like, this was something you would expect to see at the Kennedy Center. He was phenomenal, and he's getting ready to play Carnegie Hall. So if you ever have the chance to see, not only does he play, classical composers that he writes his and performs his own work, and it is as good, if not better, than some of the work that you would know. So really, really impressed. And if you want to see more performances like that at the Arts Barn, maybe consider donating to the Legacy campaign. The goal is to purchase a concert piano for the Arts Barn and to improve the seating in the theater. And those donations are being handled by G Park. So if you want more information, feel free to reach out to me. There's information on the city's website as well. You can donate by, I want to say it is PayPal. So it's a great cause. And the Arts Barn is 20 years old. As I said in my toast, we want to make sure that the next generation of creativity gets to enjoy the space just like we have for the past 20 years. So that's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Jamil, do you have anything for us?
Just a brief thank you to city staff and transportation committee for organizing the tour of the PSCC. I think I got the initials there right. And it was great to see how all of this is organized, and to learn that the city was the first to receive the computer-controlled signalized intersection. I think it's called signal number 1, and go through that. And looking forward to getting back to Gaithersburg.
All right, thank you, Jamil. A couple of legislative items first. As you all know, you have an announcement. Oh, okay. No, go ahead, do your announcement.
Sorry, apologies for leaving this out. The city is preparing to release the complete draft of the comprehensive update to the city's zoning ordinance known as Retool Gaithersburg for public review and comment on Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. The draft will be available on the Retool project page, www.retoolgaithersburg.com. The draft ordinance reflects the goals of Retool and the changes discussed at joint work sessions and through various public engagement efforts and focus groups conducted over the past 12 months. The Planning Commission is scheduled to sponsor the amendment during their regular meeting on Wednesday, February 7th at 7:30 p.m. and will officially begin the public record. Any public comments received from the time of this announcement will be included in the official record and will be treated like any other testimony received. The mayor and city council and planning commission plan to conduct joint work sessions for the draft ordinance on Monday, February 26th and Monday, March 11th, both at 7:30 p.m. Comments may be submitted via email to retool@gaithersburgmd.gov or by calling 240-805-1100 and leaving a message.
Thank you, Jim. That's a really important announcement, actually, that the Retool, the draft rewrite of our zoning code is not a document you're going to be able to read in one weekend and then come here to the public hearing and speak about. You're going to need some time. So tomorrow it goes online, and if you have any interest or own property, anything that makes it relevant to you, you should be reading it starting tomorrow. Now, as I was saying, there's a couple legislative items I want to bring up. First is, as you all remember, at the beginning of this, or before session, we came up with the city's legislative agenda. And while it wasn't an official item on our agenda, we referenced juvenile justice. And the way we referenced it was to say that we would look for common sense legislation that would improve what we saw was sort of an uptick in juvenile crime in the whole region, but Montgomery County, Gaithersburg in particular. Last week, the governor unveiled a package of reforms to juvenile justice. It doesn't, as we looked at it, when I say we, I read the bill think Lisa read the bill, Chief Soroka read the bill, Tom Lonergan Seeger sent it to all of us. I don't know who else read it, but from our reading, it looked like these were improvements to juvenile justice, but it didn't go as far, perhaps, as we'd like it to go, but it was definitely steps in the right direction. There is a public hearing on the bill on the 8th, which is coming up this week, Thursday. And so my question, and it's actually primarily to Lisa because she was sort of taking the lead on this particular item. But I'm interested to hear from all the council. Do you want to submit testimony on the 8th? And we could either send in a letter, which is probably the easiest thing to do, but we could, Lisa, if you wanted to testify, you were available to testify at this hearing, or or virtually at the meeting, you could. So number one, do we want to weigh in? Number two, do we want to write a letter, or do we want to actually testify? Lisa, I'm going to start with you.
Yes, to weighing in. We should weigh in. You've already spoke on the matter, so that's that's out there, and I think we need, particularly since the governor has spoken, there are some improvements since the last time that you spoke. We should again weigh in, and to include the areas that will not be fully addressed in this bill, like the intake process. In terms of how to weigh in, any of those.
Are you available if we wanted to?
I don't know. I don't have my phone with me.
Well,
I don't know.
Tom, do you mind coming to the podium? You happen to know what time that hearing is, or?
I believe 1 o'clock, but I can confirm that.
Okay.
Okay, in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, that will be a TBD. What do you think, Jim?
I definitely think we should weigh in. My question would be, do we think that there's any opportunities to push for an amendment to push the bill farther?
We could. Neil, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree that we should weigh in. Again, having gone through a campaign and door knocking and talking to the public, it's something that people are very concerned about, and course correction is clearly needed to rationalize some of the corrections, some of the changes that were made, and bring them back into reality. I think to keep juvenile crime under control and keep things peaceful. So yeah.
Okay, Jamil?
I concur with my colleagues, and I agree with Councilmember Henderson.
Okay, so to the question of should we weigh in, the answer is yes. I would say, to Jim's point, maybe our testimony, whether written or oral, should vaguely reference there are areas in which we would like to. There are areas that still need improvement, or something that we can go further in some areas than this bill does, and we would support that, but maybe not be the. Maybe not go that far out on a limb for the city on exactly what those are. Just keep it a little bit vague. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
Agreed, but just a word of caution that if Councilmember Henderson is doing this orally, she may be asked questions.
Yeah.
And may not be in a position to answer what those amendments might be without a further discussion.
True.
Okay.
Well, if you are going to give oral testimony, then we would want to get you some prep with the chief.
Okay, sure. And my concern with requesting amendments is they're turning a lot of knobs on this one at the same time. This thing could be messy, and I don't know if further requests for amendments continues. I don't want to say contribute to the mess. I don't want to call it a mess. It's not a mess, not yet.
Too late now.
But there's a lot of variables that are being changed at the same time on this thing. And do we further, I'm trying to confuse.
I know what you mean.
Confuse
I know what
things
you mean.
by asking for an amendment.
You're saying maybe it's best to take the win, see how it goes, come back later. Jim. Your point.
I would take the other approach. If there's already a number of tweaks being requested, let's be specific about what we want. I mean, we're not going to get what we want if we don't ask for it. And if we feel strongly that intake is really a big deal, I know, our police department has expressed concerns over the challenges that they've had. Say, yeah, this is great, but let's go further. And it's a positive amendment. It's just not like, hey, this isn't something we're interested in, but understanding that it's coming from the governor. But I think it's important, and I think the public opinion is, as you stated, is behind pushing even farther.
I tend to agree in principle, but the question is, so there will be the chiefs of police, there will be the state's attorneys that will make some of these points. I'm just concerned about the city of Gaithersburg being perceived as the one to make some of these points initially. I don't know, but either way.
I understand your concern. There's a lot of political pressure on both sides of this issue.
Yeah.
Both is probably an understatement on the multiple sides of this issue. So I think we want to let the law enforcement community take the lead on, because they're on the front line, and they're I'm not going to go into detail, but I happen to I had to make a quick trip to the Social Security office in Rockville, and there were 2 Rockville police outside. We had a really nice chat, and they described some of their concerns, which go beyond anything that's in this particular legislation. I think they're the ones that really can answer those hard questions and make sure that people understand the unintended consequences of some of the things that have been put forward already.
So, I agree with Councilmember Harris. That's a great point, because with this bill that's set forth now, I think the major point of issue with those in law enforcement, I'll say, is the intake process, right? And if you talk to the state's attorneys, from what I'm hearing, that's not where their focus is. With the state legislators and the press conference, that wasn't where their focus was. Their focus specifically on the intake was to do more training, as if law enforcement doesn't understand the process. I don't believe that to be true. So there's the point of contention. Law enforcement is carrying the water on this, that heavy bag of water on this. So to Councilmember Harris's point, I think law enforcement stands up for this one. I think that's who's being harmed most with this intake process. They've got these individuals right in front of them that they can't talk to.
Jim?
I don't want law enforcement to feel like they're the only ones carrying that water. And I think for us to stand up and say, we agree with law enforcement, this needs to change. Whether we flat out specify the specific issues, or if you want to use more nebulous language, we say we agree with law enforcement that there are challenges that are not being addressed here, and let them get into the specifics, but line up behind them and say, yeah, we agree.
Jamil?
Do we know where MML or folks that advise us on this are in terms of other municipalities that are taking similar stances? I kind of agree with Jim, but I feel like if we're able to join other municipalities, our voice gets more weight in whatever we're trying to advocate for, versus being the lone speaker on it. So I would look to see kind of what kind of guidance we're getting there, and I think I would lean more towards letting law enforcement take the lead on that, if versus being the sole municipality on this particular piece.
Fair point, and so I think we may need to table it for now, because the MML Legislative Committee will be meeting on Wednesday. I'm sure this will come up during that meeting. It's so new that at last Wednesday's meeting it hadn't even come up yet. So So I don't know, but I will know, so I serve on that committee. I will know as of Wednesday by noon where MML is going to be. And I agree, if MML is going to take a stronger stance on it, then we should back MML and not necessarily stick the city of Gaithersburg out there. But some nebulous language, I could ultimately, if MML is not going to take that stance, and we feel like, and I do agree with the state's attorneys and the chiefs of police, I could compromise with some language that would just be, we stand with them. We think this goes. We think this is some progress, and we would support this, but we'd also support amendments that would speak to the issues that state's attorneys and police chiefs have been talking about. Something like that.
Good, I like that.
Okay, so that's where we are on that. Thank you. And so the second thing I want to talk about legislatively is you guys here are sort of used to this. Jamil is new on the council and is not. I just want us to get on the same page, because I'm in this position where I'm on the legislative committee, and I'm generally the first person that either a legislator or our lobbying team or someone from the public comes and says, I want the city to support X, Y, or Z legislation. In previous years, the council has delegated a little bit of authority to me to make quick decisions that are because we have meetings once every 2 weeks, regular meetings, and because the legislative session is 90 days and things happen very quickly, something will be proposed. There'll be a hearing, just like this case here. We happen to have a meeting today, but the legislation became available on Wednesday, and now there's a hearing next Thursday. Sometimes there's a quick turnaround, and the council has delegated some power to the mayor. If it's clear where the council position would be, that I can guide our lobbying team and Tom and work with them to provide a position. This would not extend. I would not do this with juvenile justice necessarily, because it's a little bit potentially more controversial, although clearly we're all in agreement here. But in other cases where it's pretty clear where the city would be, what I'm asking from you guys is the continued sort of delegated authority to do that and speak on behalf of the city with regard to legislation. And really, the question's for Jamil.
No, I agree. I concur.
Okay. All right.
But what's your position on invasive species?
Oh my goodness.
I live from Philadelphia.
This is an aside, but at the last legislative committee meeting, there is a bill right now that has been dropped to make the persimmon the state fruit of Maryland. And we actually spent like 15 or 20 minutes talking about this at MML, whether MML should take a position on this silly issue, because there was one mayor from someplace in southern Maryland that shall not be named that it apparently was very important that the persimmon be named the state fruit. MML did not take a position, just for the record. But there's a lot of stuff that's
juvenile justice, state fruit.
Yes, exactly. All right. Oh, thank you, Tom. Last item I have is Gaithersburg Book Festival. We got a great special event coming up on Friday with former U.S. Poet Laureate Billy Collins. He will be appearing at Asbury. It is a free event, but it is ticketed. He will be speaking about his latest book of poetry and then signing books after. He is a brilliant, funny, profound thinker, and his poetry is very, very accessible. It's not like reading Yeats or who wrote Ulysses? Joyce. It's not like reading Joyce. It's like,
That's not poetry, though.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So he will be appearing 7 p.m. On Friday at Asbury. The tickets, it's free, but it's ticketed. Tickets will go on. They will become available, not on sale, available on Friday, the day of the event, at 10 a.m. And you can find them on the Gaithersburg Book Festival website, gaithersburgbookfestival.org, or we will be posting it on our social media channels too. It's going to be an amazing event. Hope you guys can join us. And last, I want to invite the public to join us next week for a work session we're going to receive updates on the Gaithersburg Hoarding Task Force and the Financial Empowerment Center. That will be Monday, February 12th, and the next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, February 20th, because of the holiday on Monday. So with that, we're going to go to from the city manager.
I have nothing to report this evening, Your Honor.
We went a little long there, so thanks for your patience. Okay, economic development update, Tom Lonergan-Seeger.
Thank you. I'll be brief. The pace of reinvestment in Old Town does continue to increase, and nowhere is that more evident lately than the 200 block of East Diamond Avenue. Last year we did see the completion, as you know, of Old Town Cafe's transformation into the Old Town Cafe Bar and Grill. Toolbox grants did support those improvements both inside and out for this longtime business. We moved on next to work with the landlord of the remaining spaces adjacent to the Bar and Grill. Facade work started last fall for the storefronts at 210 through 220 East Diamond. Work did pause during the winter, but new signage and awnings are among the upcoming improvements, and a grant by the state's Department of Housing and Community Development matches our Toolbox contribution for this phase. Happily, the one vacant space remaining in these buildings has leased to Powerhouse Studio, offering Zumba, yoga, and dance fitness classes. Watch for an opening in a few months. As we all know, Toolbox programs offer grants to local small companies, offsetting expenses related to building improvements. If you want more information, call me or Sharon. Thank you
very much, Tom. Good news indeed. Okay, we're going to move on to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. Melanie Brown. Talking about the future Crown Park.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. The resolution before you this evening is to authorize the City Manager to award a professional services contract for the design of the future Crown Farm Park located at 415 de Coverly Drive. On August 24th, 2023, the City issued request for proposals 2023-023 for design services for a future park at the current site of the recently restored historic corn crib barn. The site also
It is a mouthful.
The site also has 2 silos and 2 accessory buildings. The scope of work for this project consists of conceptual, schematic, and design development to build a new city park located on the 2.99-acre parcel located at the corner of de Coverly Drive and Steinbeck Avenue. Preparation of construction drawings and specifications, and construction administration services during the actual construction of the park. On October 4th, 2023, the City received 5 proposals for the work outlined in the solicitation. An evaluation panel reviewed and scored the proposals based on technical qualifications and prior park design experience. The price proposals of the 3 highest scoring offerers were reviewed and compared to the City's project budget. Formal interviews were held with the 2 highest ranked firms that satisfied the City's selection criteria. After the interviews, the City requested best and final offers from both firms. The firm that was more closely aligned with the City's project budget was selected. An additional $11,000.16 will be included in the contract for additional design allowances based on hourly rates provided on the price sheet. Funding for this project was budgeted in the FY24 capital improvement budget. Staff recommends award to the most qualified offerer, LSG Landscape Architecture Incorporated, with offices located at 8260 Greensboro Drive, Suite 325, Tysons, Virginia, in a not-to-exceed amount of $216,545. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Tim.
Have we done work with them in the past?
We have not.
We have not, okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I just think, Melanie, that this is fantastic. I'm in that area a lot, and dining and entertaining myself. And there's lots of folks out walking dogs, hanging out in areas that have a little bit of grass, but this is going to be fantastic. So, yeah, good deal.
Yep. Okay, and I just texted Jamil. He's good. He doesn't have any questions. All right. If not, if we're done with questions, would someone like to move the resolution?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Tie.
You were close.
Tie gets to the runner.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Melanie. Next, from the city attorney.
I have no report this evening.
Anything from other staff? Okay. John, no? Okay. Then I will remind everyone that to join us for our work session next week, where we receive updates on the Gaithersburg Hoarding Task Force and the Financial Empowerment Center. That's Monday, February 12th. Next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council is Tuesday, February 20th. And please join us Friday night for a great night with the great Billy Collins. It's going to be amazing. Gaithersburgbookfestival.org for all the details. Until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.